Hi, welcome to the Inspiration of Painting. In our lesson, this time we're going to concentrate on a beautiful landscape, something that's got a lot more color. It's going to take a little bit more effort on your part to understand how to use this much color. I'm not personally one that really cares too much for a lot of bright color. I think I prefer the more subdued, monotone type paintings. They're just more natural and they fit my personality better. However, some people like brighter things. Well, we're going to attempt a brighter painting today. And so if you'll focus in up here on the on this photograph, I don't have a very large reference material. This is a painting I did a few weeks ago. It's a very large painting, and it's a very bright, typical New Mexico sunset. We have tremendously bright sunsets in New Mexico this time of the year, and it's something that I'm having a lot of fun with at home, trying to work on different colors. Now, it's a late evening. The sky is the bright part. We have a little stream or river. This is over by the Rio Grande River. And then we've got just little different bits and pieces of ground formations, little cliffs and things and rocks, and a little bit of water, some brush, and an old dead tree. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get started here. Now, it's not something that you have to get too concerned about right away, because all we're going to do is just kind of splash on color. If you'll notice, we've got yellows, oranges, brighter reds, purples, blues, tans, grays. There's a little bit of variety of color in there. The trick is just learning how to make it work so that it doesn't look like a big mess, okay, or it doesn't turn to mud on you, which seems to be most everyone's biggest problem. Okay, we're going to work with our number 10 bristle brush now. And by the way, these are some new brushes that I've been working with. These are all Low Cornell. The brand is Low Cornell. This is a number 10, and they seem to be really working great. So you might want to try some of these. And also on the sable brushes, the script brushes, the little rounds, the whole line of Low Cornell brushes are working great for this acrylic painting technique. All right, now let's move on up here, and we're going to start, and it's very simple to start with. You're going to use just plain water, a little yellow, a touch of white, and all you're going to do is just start throwing on the color like this. Now you have to put it on fairly thick if you want things to happen right. Now as you're going across here and sort of in this vertical motion, don't be afraid now to add in touches of the cadmium red and kind of scrub it in. And see how I'm using sort of the edge of the brush to kind of blend it. This is sort of a technique that requires just a little bit of a little nerve, because you're going to put these colors on bright and you're going to think, oh my gosh, I've ruined it. But you really haven't. But remember now, the important thing is to keep it very, very soft. Very, very soft. Make sure the canvas is covered good. Notice I'm blending it very carefully, very gracefully across here. Now we're not going to paint it exactly as we see it, but we're going to paint it pretty close to that. But I'm using a lot of thick paint. Now, as you go up into the painting, you can begin seeing a lot of other colors. Now, this is what you have to do whenever you make a transition from a yellowish orange into some grays or blues. If you're not careful to turn green, and there's nothing wrong with having some green in there, we're going to have a little. That's just part of it. But what you want to do is go from the transition a little more gradual so that when you get into the blues, you don't have a whole lot of green. So the way you get there, and I'm going to use a little gesso, so I'm going to squirt a little gesso out here. You start in with white, see, like so, and you kill this next layer of yellow by adding the white, and so when you start going into the blue, it doesn't turn as green on you. See how I'm working this in here? Just plain white. Now as you go up into this part of the sky, then you begin adding the blue. A little light blue violet, a little ultramarine, and you begin up here like this. A little more gesso out here. Now notice I'm doing a lot of scrubbing. This sky is kind of turbulent. It's not a real horizontal sky. But I want you to notice now how I'm blending and building in the colors just by kind of scumbling in. That way you don't get any, you're going to get just a little bit of green right here, but you're not going to get a whole lot. Now as we go across, we're going to go from the blue and the soft yellow oranges into some purples. This is a multicolored sky. It's beautiful. And if it's done properly, you can really create a magnificent effect. Okay, so now we take our dioxazine purple, maybe a little light blue violet, and we've got another brilliant purple over here. Then you start throwing in the purple. And remember, everywhere you go with a color, always blend it into the next one with a feathery stroke so there's no hard lines. See, it's really not as hard as you thought it was going to be. Just simply blending colors into each other before they dry on you. Now I'm going to pull some of the red up right here. I want this to be a fairly strong color here. So I'm picking up some red. I'm going up a little higher with it. Notice how I'm blending and scrubbing. Now this has to be done relatively quick, so if you're not used to painting like this, you need to kind of practice this maybe on another canvas or something. So your clouds in this particular painting are not your traditional white clouds. In fact, there's almost no white clouds in it. It's just a arrangement. See, you've got some dark purple ones, you've got some reddish colored ones. So we take our purple and our red now, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to begin developing my darker clouds like this. Oh, this is a lot of fun. And if you're real careful and you don't get in a big rush and you don't panic and you don't keep working an area until it turns to mud, you're going to have a great, great time with this. Just an absolutely great time. Now I want you to kind of be a little bit free to choose some things that you want to do in the sky. Don't worry about making it look just like mine. You can make your clouds a little different here and there. You can do a lot of other things. Make it a little darker up in the right hand corner. Now over here we're going to pick up our red and we're going to let the clouds, now I want you to look at this photograph. See how quick it is, and we're almost done actually. You've got some reddish colored clouds that come in on top. These are the ones that are really picked up in the sun. A little more red. There we go. And I know this is hard for you to do because you're thinking, oh, clouds aren't that color, they're white or gray or whatever. Well, in most cases, yes, but when you have a dramatic sunset like this, you're going to pick up a lot of other cloud colors. And this happens to be one of them. And it gives, this is what gives it the contrast, and that's what gives the painting the impact. Okay, and I'm going to change this around just a little bit here. See how loose and free I am with this? I'm just kind of dry brushing. It's kind of a scratchy effect. Okay, now see, after you kind of get the basics in, then you let that dry. Now if this is already dry, then we're going to come back with some bright, almost pure yellow. Well, it is pure yellow. And you put it on real thick. That's what you need at the base. See, I'm putting it on real thick. See how I'm doing that? Leave it on thick, just like this. Just kind of move it across here. And because this is where the sun's going to be coming up, then you take your little number 4 or number 2 sable brush. This is the little low Cornell sable brush that I spoke to you about. And you want to take pure yellow with a teeny touch of red, real thick on your brush here. And you want to put sort of, it's kind of like a silver lining, but especially on the underneath side of this particular cloud here. And any place else where it may pick up just a little bit of light. Really an important thing. Hold my brush back a little bit so you can see. You have to put it on very, very thick. For instance, over here, if you want it to really look good. Don't be afraid of the thick paint. Thick paint's good. Okay, yeah, that looks real good. I think we're going to stop there for now. Okay, now let's go back to our number 6 bristle brush, and we're going to put our little distant hill in right here, and that's going to be dioxazine purple with a little light blue violet, maybe a touch of white. Yeah, you want a soft purplish hill back here. And the white, of course, is the complement to this yellow, so it should work out really well. And also creates a really nice amount of distance. Go ahead and give this hill whatever shape you want it to have. I mean, it could even have the shape of a regular mountain or just a grassy hill. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to pull mine up a little bit there. Now this also creates a real nice contrast and puts a lot of depth in the painting, but now makes your sky stand out more. Okay? Now, the next thing we're going to have, now you see here's your sketch here, the edge of your hill. There's some bushes and or some trees behind here that we're going to block in there and over here. Now if you haven't made this sketch yet, go ahead and take your charcoal and make this sketch here. You've got this hill here, you've got a bank here, you're going to have this little stream or river right here, another bank here. You know, it's a pretty simple V-shaped composition, which is really important and very popular in most painting. Okay? Now, let's take our number 6 bristle brush, take a little bit of yellow and purple. This will give you sort of the brownish color. And starting right back here, do this, you know, the technique we've used before where you dab it straight on like this and create the shape of some distant trees in the background. Now make sure they have an interesting shape and they're very soft. There's no hard edges. Come on over here. Make this one over here a little bit taller. And it's got just a tad more purplish color to it, which is fine. Notice how I'm dabbing. Just creates a little texture, and you have a lot more opportunity to create different shapes by doing that too. Also, look how nice this tree stands out against that red colored sky. That's just so beautiful. Okay, now we come over to the left hand side. We do a similar thing over here. We got to get some trees up against this sky behind this hill. Now these are just a little bit darker, and the reason is because we want to create a little depth in this painting, and this is the only way we're going to get it, is by making these trees a little darker than the ones behind it. So see that? Those are behind, that's behind, this is in front. So you've already got 3 layers of depth. Okay, that's very good. Now, let's block in the bank here, and this is going to be kind of fun. And while we've done a few banks on a smaller scale, we haven't done anything quite like this. Now let's take our brush, and we're going to take burnt sienna, a little bit of yellow, and a touch of red. And remember now, sunlight is coming in, and I'm going to suggest that most of the light's coming in this direction. So I want this to be a very sunlit bank. And I want you to start with this nice, warm, rich color here. Now there will be some dark areas and there will be some light areas. You know, there will be a variety of areas of color here. But keep coming back like this, and then as you come forward, it's going to get darker because it'll become shadow. So then you go into more umbers, siennas, little purple. And again, right up underneath here is where it'll be a little darker, right on the edge, where it sort of overhangs. Okay, now this is going to get pretty dark over here, but that's okay, don't be afraid of it. This is a nice warm painting too. Now, see, this is nice and rich and dark here. We go into some tans, then to some more of a reddish color. That adds a nice character to it. Now let's move to the other side and block this in, and it's going to be done in fairly dark colors also. The burnt umber, burnt sienna, so forth. Right on down here. And it gets real dark when it gets down in this corner because there's no light at all hitting this section. So just use plain burnt umber, little blue and purple. It's very dark. Matter of fact, I'm going to switch to my number 10 bristle brush. It just makes things go quicker, but it also makes your painting look a lot more spontaneous and fresh if you don't have such little tiny strokes everywhere. Okay, now this will also reflect into the water after a while. Right now we won't worry too much about it, but we are going to start the water. And keep in mind now that water always picks up the colors that are around it. We're going to pick up some of the blue grays and the purples up here, the greenish colors, and we'll may pick up a little bit of the yellows and oranges as we go back into the center part of it here. But starting at the base now, I want you to take gesso and your ultramarine blue, maybe a little touch of purple here, and I'm going to put this paint on fairly thick and start with just a horizontal, sort of a swishing type of stroke, long, sort of just gentle commas, and let's just begin building this water. And it's going to be a little bit darker along the edges and then lighter as it goes into the middle and back into the painting. As I told you, as it goes out to the edges here, I want you to start picking up some of the browns and the darker colors, because that's what will reflect into this water. Now see, I'm scrubbing like this, and I'm always keeping my brush in a very horizontal, parallel direction so that the water will always look flat, okay? It's very, very, very important. The water looks flat. And now then we go on across, keep working. Now see, I'm kind of using these little, I don't know what kind of stroke it really is, but I'm following the shape of this little wash as it comes down here by using these little comma strokes or these little S strokes, and it makes it look like the water's kind of swished up against there. Now we need to do a similar thing over here, except that because the light's hitting this section, it's a little bit lighter, just a little. Now be sure that the canvas is covered completely. You don't want too much of the grain of the canvas coming through. Okay, now see, coming over here, it's a little bit lighter, but then we have a little dark edge. Now that dark edge is important because that helps three-dimensionalize the water here, because it does have a little bit of depth to it. Now right here we're going to wash in some darker values. This whole section here will pick up some of the dark reflections here. And just come down like this, sort of in a dry brush effect. Okay, and just dry brush it out into the water, leaving no hard edges. Okay. See, I'm dry brushing this, but boy, be sure that there's no hard edges. Okay. Now, we're going to pull in a little bit of the yellow and red, and I'm going to switch to my number 6 bristle brush for this. And we're going to put some of the yellows that we have up in here and the reds in this part of the painting, and then I'm going to show you how to ripple this thing with some highlights coming right through the middle. Look, kind of smudge this a little bit there. Okay. Now we take a little bit of yellow, a touch of red, and a touch of white. And we know that the sun's going to reflect in here a little bit, so we do this a little bit. Now notice how the strokes are going parallel, horizontal with the rest of the painting. As we come out into the center part, I want you to notice, now this is what makes the water look really nice and wet. You take the white and the yellow. As you come out in this part of the water, you put it on just a little thicker, and you use these little sort of concave strokes here across the center, and it kills two birds with one stone. It picks up the color of the sky and also adds a little bit of ripple to the water, which is exactly what we want. And gently work your way out to the edge, but boy, don't bring too much of it out here because it'll overdo and we'll lose the wetness that we're starting to get. Gently, gently, gently work it out. Now see how that's coming forward like this? It's really important because now remember, we're going to have rocks along the edges, so we'll take care of our edge later. Now also coming out into the water, we're going to have little bits and pieces of grasses and brush. So starting right here, we're going to go ahead and bring this down, and I'm going to have a little bit of grass that comes out here that you can reflect into the water. All of these things help make the water look wet. In fact, let's make it sort of a little bush right here that we can reflect into the water there. Yeah, that adds a nice touch to it. Now we're going to block in where the rocks and things go along the edge, all the way from the back all the way to the foreground. We start first with a little dark edge. This. Now that edge is important because that helps set things together, or tie things together, I mean. And just so you know, there's going to be grass and dirt and stuff here, but there's some green bushes that go here, and I want to go ahead and put those in because that'll help see how much water is left. So you take your hooker's green, a little burnt sienna, a touch of purple, and I want to get these bushes in right here that come up in front. I got too much water in there. See, that's one of the problems with acrylic painting. If you're not careful, you get too much water and it's too transparent and you don't get anything like you want it. Okay, the grass will kind of hang over the edge of the cliff right there. And the reason we're doing this, because see that nice contrast makes that yellow show up and it makes the water look wetter. And that's an important part of this painting. Now, we're going to start the rock process, and the rocks are not difficult, but some of you really struggle with rocks because you overwork them. We're going to continue with the number 6 bristle brush and our umber, a little sienna, a touch of blue and purple. And as before, all you do is put a blob in like this. Blue, brown, purple, any dark colors actually will be fine. Now you want some fairly large ones over here. And I'm going to have a couple out in the water, and when you put the rock like that, go ahead and put a little swish right underneath it for the reflection, like that. Now see how I'm just kind of dabbing? I'm not being really that careful. We got rocks scattered everywhere back here. So just little dark blobs to start with. Alrighty. And we can put a couple over here. So I'm going to just kind of dab in a few little blobs over here. Maybe one out in the water. It's okay if you put 2 or 3 out in the water because that'll help make the water look wetter. Then, while we're letting those dry, I'm going to go ahead and start with the sort of the ground area up on top of these cliffs over here, and that's going to be done with a little white, a little burnt sienna, and a touch of yellow. And let's just kind of get it started. We're not finishing this, we're just starting it. We're going to cap this out here. Like so. Now there'll be lots of grass and brush and stuff, but I want to see how this is going to look here. Okay. Yeah, that's the idea there. We do a similar thing over here. You take the white and the red, a little sienna. Now see how you put these little caps on here, and it kind of makes it look like the cliff is, jutting in and out, and it's really a lot of fun. Now we're going to put a lot of grass and stuff in here too, and bushes, so don't think we're just going to leave it like this. But this is where you start. So you might even have a little spot here where the sun's hitting another section of it right there. That looks really good. Now you rinse your brush, and let's go in with our number 10 bristle brush now. And let's use Hooker's Green with a little burnt sienna. And let's come up with some nice bushes here and there now. I'm going to push in on this because I don't want this to get too bouncy on me. All right. Now notice I'm dry brushing down. It's kind of like sagebrush, you know, things like that. A little up here. A couple of them that are a little taller. And see, it's much darker, so that creates this other layer of depth that's really, really important. Now remember, on any of these paintings that you're learning from here, please use as much of your own imagination and your own ideas as possible. You know, if you want to change the shape of some of this stuff or add something, hey, do it. Don't be afraid to try something on your own. You'll be a much, much, much happier painter if you do. Now there's going to be a large tree over here that comes up like this, a dead tree, and there's going to be a lot of dirt and sand and grass and brush and stuff around it, so I'm not going to get too carried away with this just yet. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get my charcoal, and I'm going to go ahead and sketch in where this great big old monster tree goes. Kind of goes right here. Of course, I'm nuts about dead trees. I think dead trees are the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful forms in nature. They're just so exciting to look at because there's, you know, each one's different. I'm going to let it go on off the page or the canvas. And we're going to have a major, you know, limb that comes out into the sky this way, this way. This will pull our eye back into this part of the painting. And then if you have some specific center of interest that you would like to put in there, like, you know, a person or something, like in this case, in my photograph up here, I have a little tiny teepee and an Indian back there, and we're not going to put that in here because I mostly want to get this brighter landscape across to you, how to pull it off. Okay, now see, that's how your tree should kind of look when you block it in there. Now let's just let it sit for a minute, and then we know where to go with the rest of our grass and stuff. So I'm going to take my number 10 brush and the Hooker's Green again and the burnt sienna. And I'm going to come back over here behind, and I'm going to go ahead and just sort of dry brush in some grass. And we're going to highlight that in a minute. Okay, now I'm going to highlight just a little bit here by using some red. See, you want your grasses to take on different colors and different values. And then I'll show you how to pull the sand and stuff up around. Okay, now that's a grassy area. Now the rest of this is dirt and sand and rocks and things. So we'll switch to our number 6 brush now. And you go back to some of your tan colors. Like we'll use white with a little yellow and a touch of burnt sienna. Get sort of a sandy color. And I'm going to drift the sand up into the brush now in the weeds. This is what's really important. going to rough up the edge a little bit of the bank here. And then I'll show you how we're going to drift the highlight down. So you just kind of drift it back in there. Don't leave any real hard edges. Okay, now let's start highlighting some of our rocks while we have that color going. It's the same color, the white, the yellow, the red, and whatever mud's on your brush will be fine. And we begin the highlighting process. Now there's going to be quite a few rocks here, and a couple of pretty good sized ones. Now don't over highlight. Now I can't stress enough. Now most of you have been following along. I don't need to go over all the specifics on doing this, but just remember, do not over highlight. Absolutely do not over highlight. A little reflection in the water from that rock. Now what I'm going to do first of all is locate them all. Then I'll come back if need be and add a little bit more to the back side of the rock if I need to. Notice I'm using the chisel corner of the brush. Sometimes I use the flat. Just depends on where you're at in the painting. Now I'm going right along the shoreline here with little dabs, just sort of suggesting these rocks here. Now if you get any rock that's kind of out in the water enough, you can always put a little reflection in there, see? And that really helps the water. Makes it look much wetter. Over here. Now see, some are going to go kind of up the cliff, so don't be afraid to put a few highlights like this, see, right up on the edges. And what I was talking about earlier, if you want to, see, you can come back with some burnt umber, a little blue or purple, and you can put some shadows behind these rocks, some of them that don't have much there. Now one thing I want to do right quick while we're thinking about it is take pure burnt umber, just plain umber, and block in the main part of this trunk, just this big part right down here, because I want to show you how we're going to build some stuff up around it, some grass and so forth. Plain burnt umber. I like these little broken old stumps sticking out here. That. Now I'm going to take a little bit of this tan color, the white, the yellow, and a touch of red. I'm going to kind of drift right up into the tree like this. Because my thinking is that the sand is probably drifted up here and there's going to be some brush. And that kind of settles it down really very nicely. Then we need to take a few darker pieces of grass right back here. Where there's a shadow there. That should be a little darker. Okay, now watch how we do this. Up like this. See how I'm just pulling the grass up? That really settles things down. It makes it look really complete. Now we're going to do the same thing over on the other side. We're going to build a combination of grass and sand and whatever. So I'm going to go back to my number 10 bristle brush. A little hooker's green, a little brown, or burnt sienna. And right along the very top here, now this is going to just be a real nice sort of ridge of green bushes. And we'll highlight them in a minute. I'll say I'm just kind of dry brushing this texture and this color down here. Then we're going to drift the sand up. Right now, we switch to our number 6 bristle brush, and we use a little cad yellow light, a little red, a little white, get sort of this sandy color, okay, like this. And we kind of drift back up into the grass. Then I'll show you how to finish it. But you just first want to get some grass and sand sort of drifted together here. Okay, now after you've kind of got the sand and the grass together, now you have to tie them together, because see, there's nothing tying it together right now. We take our green and our burnt sienna, maybe a touch of purple. And for instance, like right here, you just flip up a little grass, see, like this. Or here. And what that does now is it settles the sand down and makes it look like it fits into the painting. And it gets rid of all the edges and anything that's a problem. Okay, now see we're dry brushing the grass down and how nice and soft it looks against the sand and the dirt. It's a nice, nice, nice effect. Now then, at this point, we need to go ahead and block in the rest of our big tree so it can be drying, and then we can start highlighting and putting the bark on it. So let's go to our number 6 bristle brush. Take pure burnt umber again. You can throw purple or blue into it if you want to. It doesn't really matter. But the umber is okay. And just kind of block in the basic shape of it. That's all you have to do. It's an old dead sycamore tree, or maybe an old dead cottonwood. They're beautiful. Yeah, block in the main limbs. Don't get carried away with a whole bunch of little ones, just the main ones. And we want the tree to be kind of rough and scraggly. I mean, that's just the way they are. So don't be afraid if your tree looks a little rough, because you want it to be rough. Now here, don't come down too far because you're going to do that with the script brush. Come on up in here, here, here. Now remember, the tree has to taper gradually. Okay, yeah, that's about right. Probably have to make it a little wider down here to support it all, but that's not a serious problem. Let's make it a little bit wider. Now I'm going to go ahead and dry brush, see some shadow right behind it. There we go. Now this painting's really taken on a nice effect. It's basically got a southwest flavor to it, but that's okay. That's what it is. It's in the southwest. Now we're going to darken our corners of the water. And you're going to take your number 10 bristle brush, and I want you to take a little bit of gesso here, blue, and a little burnt sienna. Get a nice dark, sort of a grayish color. Maybe add a touch of purple to it. And I want to start down here. It needs to be fairly dark. It's not quite dark enough. Yeah, that's a little bit better. But darker still. Throw a little umber into it if you have to. And I want you to go back and forth like this. And come out into the water very, very carefully. Now I'm going to rinse my brush out because it's got a little bit too much other stuff in it. We want this to be very dark. And that's a little better. Now you don't want to come out too far too quick. You just want to sort of stay within the boundary of the shadowed area here, and you can come across the bottom of it a little bit too. Now, if some of you prefer to go to your number 6 brush to do this, it's not going to matter that much. I just, again, prefer the larger brushes because I feel like I have more control. I think my painting's fresher and more spontaneous. See, I'm dragging some of this dark color out into the water, but I'm leaving this light showing here. That's what makes that come alive. Right along the edge here, I'm going to darken that just a little bit. Yeah, that's looking great. Now this should be real dark over here in this corner. And as it comes out, you just kind of blend out this way very gradually using your dry brush technique. And remember all those little things we talk about. When I talk about dry brush or feathering or whatever, we've been through all those things. So you shouldn't have any problem just understanding it now and doing it. But don't hesitate now. You know, you can always if you have any struggle, or if you're brand new and you need some basics, we've got a number of basic tapes you can call in for. A lot of them have water in them and other things if you're having struggles. I see I'm dry brushing this dark along the edge. Dry brushing the reflection of the grass here. And see how nice and wet that makes the water look? I think that is so neat, and it really puts a finishing touch to it basically. Okay? Now, while the water's kind of drying, after we got the darks in there, we're going to switch to our number 6 brush, and we're going to highlight this edge here by taking red and yellow and a touch of white and get sort of a reddish pinkish color. And that's what we're going to highlight with, because this is what the sun's going to be hitting over here. See, you want this like this. but leave the top part dark. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, now after you get some of these highlights on here, see that kind of three-dimensionalized the bank, makes it look a lot more like sand and dirt, and like the erosion is doing its thing. Back here a little bit. Okay. And you don't want to overdo it, but just get enough to where it looks pretty decent. Then I'm going to see how I'm kind of dabbing out into the water's edge. This also helps settle the water down and gives the water just a little bit more of a finished effect on the edge. Then I'm going to go ahead and using the chisel corner, really put a lot of small little pebbles, just like this. See, I'm just kind of dabbing. You don't even have to have a dark side. Just have a little highlight. That's all it takes. Really is a great way to add a lot of character to your painting. Now, while there may not be a whole lot of sunlight here, you're going to pick up some light. It's not going to be real bright, so you can take your brush and just sort of dab little smudges. And at this point, there's not much color in your brush, so it's not going to show up too much anyway. So you don't have too much of a problem. Okay, now we've got a few highlights here. Got our highlights here. The painting is really taking a nice form. While we have this paint on our brush, let's go over here to our tree now, and we're going to use the white and the yellow and the red, and we're just going to kind of dry brush on some very loose strokes, just like this. Boy, it's important that you leave some of the background coming through, because you want this to be an old textured tree. If you get too much, I have to kind of wipe my brush now and then off. See, I'm just kind of highlighting the very edge of it here. Go up. As you go across, it gets a little bit lighter pressure so that you don't see the whole thing. There might be a little highlight on this one right there. In fact, you can make it come in front by just putting these little circles. See, like that, and it looks like it's coming forward. Highlight this, this. Remember to dry brush, but leave that background coming through. Don't clog it up. Okay, now see how nice that looks? It's got a nice texture. But now let's very quickly take our script brush and let's put a few limbs. Now, it's not going to have a whole lot of limbs on it, but it is going to have some. And we're going to use plain burnt umber and a little ultramarine blue. Get it nice and soupy. And let's finish out this limb here, however you want to finish it. I mean, I like to be real bold and come right on down into the painting because it just creates a nice effect. Up here especially. Now you're not going to highlight every one of these little limbs because remember it's late evening and the sun is going to be coming and hitting certain things, but some things won't have much highlight on it. Have a limb or two that come back in this way. This away. Let it really take over the painting. If you want to call it the feature, then it's the feature, because that really is what it is. Okay, now so you get all the limbs. Now you can put really and truly as many as you feel like you want to, but don't go overboard with it. Then while you have this dark color on your brush, I like to come in and kind of do things like put little holes and cracks and just kind of beat the tree up a little bit. Like this. Kind of adds a little bit more character, because this is a very, very old tree, and it's got a lot of knots and holes, and it's just a very neat tree. Okay, now take your number 4 little sable brush, and I want you to take some yellow and white, just plain yellow and white, and we're going to put a little bright highlight right on the edge. That really makes it kind of stand out. Don't take it back into the tree. Just keep it right on the edge. Okay, we want that's sort of have a glow. Very carefully, but very quickly. Only on the main limbs that show up. Okay, see, that really makes it look sunlit. We might do it a little brighter down here. Okay. Now the next thing is to go back in and start highlighting the grasses and things. Now because this is sort of a sunset, you're only going to have sort of the top edge of things highlighted, and you're going to use your yellow and your red for that. Take yellow, cad yellow, and red, and dab it straight on like we've done before. And again, hold your canvas so it doesn't bounce, and I'll just come in here and I'll highlight the top edge of some of this, creating these little clumps. And this is what adds a little bit more interest to the painting. A little bit back here, all right here. And that's the finishing touch that gives it the sort of the glow. Now, it won't show up too much against that orange sky, but you can still do it, and it's still three-dimensionalizes it. Here, here, here. Here, back here, and back here. And here. Here. Just kind of pick selected areas, and you can use a little brighter color if you want to. You can use some red. You can use some more yellows or oranges. But once again, don't over highlight. That'll kill it. Just enough to make it look finished. Because if you start focusing in areas like this or this, then your eye doesn't stay in the pattern that you want it to stay in. You want just enough highlight here and there to make it look complete, but you don't have to make it completely complete. Just enough to finish it. Okay, yeah. Now, out of this little section here, we're going to have a dead, not necessarily dead, but maybe a tree that's not leafed out. And again, we're going to switch to our script brush. And this little number 4 low Cornell brush is excellent for this. And we're going to come over here out of this section, and we're just going to have a beautiful, just a branched out tree here. And if you choose to leaf it, that's fine. But I really think in this particular painting that because we've got so much at the sunset, the color, that the more we add to it at this point in terms of more subjects and objects, the more busy it's going to become and the less we focus on what we want. So I'm using this more as an eye stopper than I am a subject that we want to draw attention to. It just helps us stay off from going off the page. Now I may put just a little bit more highlight around the bottom of it. Just a little here. Not too much, and a little right there. Because I want to kind of be camouflaged in there a little bit at the base. Okay, now we're closing in on, by the way, before I forget, you can put a few birds up here. And it really looks good in this particular painting because they silhouette very nicely. Man, don't get too much paint on your brush or then you get a blob, and that's not good. Yeah, put several birds like that. That adds a nice, nice touch to it. Now, one of the final things we're going to do is take our number 6 bristle brush, and I'm going to use plain white paint this time because it's a little thicker than the gesso. And we're going to put some final highlights on the water here, and you do it, just dip it straight into the paint and add a little touch of yellow to it. What you do is start back here like this, and you just kind of go like this in sort of a horizontal motion. And you dab the paint on there. Now it's got to be on thick in order for this to work. Now don't get carried away. Just like this, just a little bit to give it some character and a little bit of sparkle. Maybe just a touch or two along the edge, not much though. See how that makes the water look like it's kind of moving, but it gives it a glow. And that's really one of the secrets to finishing this painting, is giving it just a little bit of a glow. I'm going to come all all the way forward. And put just a little bit on the edge here. I'm going to brighten these rocks a little, maybe a little tad brighter here and there. Don't hesitate to do things like this. As you're going along and you feel like you need a little more highlight or sunlight when you're working in a certain area, well, go ahead and do it. Okay, well, I think I'm just about ready to put the brakes on here and sort of call it quits, except for one thing, and I'm going to let you kind of make some decisions about this. Remember now, this little script brush is so important for building in little weeds and things that give your painting a little more character. Again though, as I mentioned before, I want you to be careful about too many weeds that are individuals in this painting, because we want to focus on the sky and how it draws our eye in. And again, the more stuff you put into it, the more attention you take away, or to other things, and not so much on that sky. But you need a few weeds, some things that just kind of make it look a little finished. And you can put them in a lot of places. You can put them over here on the edge, and just enough. And use some light ones too. Don't be afraid to use some really nice light colored ones. See, like here I'm going to put some sort of yellow green, pretty tall over there against the tree. That really makes a nice contrast. And you can do a similar thing over here. You may want to put just a few light colored ones here and there. All right, I'm gonna call it quits. Now this has been a fun painting. It's different than we've done in the past. It's got a lot of color. It's got a lot of good things in it that you haven't done before, and the combination of them all together is a unique challenge. Thank you very much for joining us on this painting. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you again real soon in another lesson. God bless you. Have a good time.